I wanted to try and give it an arrangement that wasn't terribly obvious. So I went for this sort of early music.
Yeah, no, it's very jaunty and medieval. I mean, it kind of brings a childlike sense of fun to the thing. Being a mother and son, how much has that inspired and infused this record, do you think?
I think it's all over it. It's everywhere in the record. He's such a big part of my life, so he's a very big part of my work.
The life you lead has been because you've prioritised being a mother, more or less, above everything else, isn't it?
Yes. It's such a great thing being able to spend as much time with him as I can. And, you know, he won't be young for very long. You know, already he's starting to grow up, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss out on that. So the idea was that he would come first and then the record would come next, which is also one reason why it's taken a long time.
Yeah.
For me, that was really difficult. At first, I couldn't really work because I'd always had as much time as I wanted in the studio. I'd spend, 14 hours a day working on an idea, just going with the sort of creative flow, and I couldn't do that anymore. And at first I found it crippling because after 2 or 3 hours I'd have to stop. But actually I think it's one of the best things that could have happened, because what it was enforcing me to do was keep standing back from it, and I think that was really good. But also, it's like on holidays as well. I wanted to spend my time with him, so there were very big gaps in the whole process.
Well, you didn't do any work on the album at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's easy to see how the time stretches out, isn't it?
Mommy?
As we've already said, Ariel is an album split into 2 parts, A Sea of Honey and A Sky of Honey. The first disc, A Sea of Honey, contains 7 separate songs, whereas the second, A Sky of Honey, is a 9-piece song suite, conceived to be listened to in a single sitting, as Kate had said, to take a listener on a journey. In his review in The Independent, Andy Gill describes Ariel as having a core of contented domesticity at its heart. Nowhere is this more abundantly apparent than in A Sky of Honey. I'm already blocking out summer afternoons from next year's diary so that I can listen to it in my garden. Kate has expressed an understandable reluctance to have pieces of A Sky of Honey played in isolation, outside their proper context. I asked her why.
I feel very strongly about the way things have moved. It's like the art form of an album is seriously under attack with iTunes and people's lack of time or attention span to sit through a whole album. Everything's becoming very fast. Give me a quick hit now, and people will go onto iTunes and just pick the one track they want off an album. They won't listen to the whole album. I know that the album will always exist as an art form, but I think it's a shame. I don't like to see stuff being dissected like that. It's very much a symptom of the way we live now. Everything's sort of disposable.
No, sure, no, I see what you're saying, definitely. Because, I kind of get annoyed if I hear a track from one of my favourite albums, and then the next track doesn't follow it, because that's the sequence of things that I remember, and how I want it to be. And I don't do iTunes, because I can't work it anyway.
Oh, so excited.
What about the relationship between your voice and the bird song? Because it's almost like there are parts of the record where you let your voice have free rein, don't you? It's you've got a wide octave range anyway, but you really kind of let rip with the voice. It's almost like kind of taking off into flight, really, at times, isn't it?
Well, I suppose I was just playing with the idea of how could human language connect with birdsong?
There's times when it's almost like the rhythm of the wood pigeons or something. They're creating their own natural rhythm through their voices. Or perhaps it's a manipulated natural rhythm. You spent ages getting to be just drop in the right places.
No, it's just the natural rhythm. I think birdsong is a really beautiful sound. What I find interesting about it too is the way that they mark the day. Like, for instance, the dawn chorus. They seem to be very strongly connected with light. And I think in some ways that was one of the sort of explorations I was trying to go off on with this.
Yeah.
The connection between their song and light and the passing of day. And as the sun goes down, all the birds sing again, don't they? They're all beautiful thrush and blackbird songs.
Apart from her feathered friends, Kate has invited some other old acquaintances to help her on Ariel. Here's one of them. Can you hear who it is yet?
Yes, I need to get that tone a little bit lighter there. Maybe with some dark accents coming in from this side. That's good.
How did Rolf come to be involved again then?
It's very interesting because when people hear the records, the only 2 points that they stop to comment while they're listening is after King of the Mountain, people go, "There's real drums." And I think, my God, where have we got to that people actually have to comment that there's real drums on the track? And then the next point they comment is when Rolf comes in and they go, "Is that Rolf Harris?" And they have this sort of really childlike, delighted look on their face. Because they know it's Rolf, but they just want it to be confirmed.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about how he's touched a lot of people. He's like a national treasure of ours now, isn't he? I mean...
Well, he's been around ever since we were kids, hasn't he? And all the public safety swimming adverts and things like that.
Yeah, it's really a part of our culture, and I think he's a very talented guy as well. I think we all recognise him as a brilliant painter, a very seriously accomplished painter.
A portraitist by royal appointment now, isn't he?
Absolutely. And I suppose really that's why he sprung to mind, was because I needed a singing painter.
Right, yeah, and there aren't many,
There aren't many, are
in
there?
the Yellow Pages. You got Rolf doing the painting, and that's weaved through. And you talk about the light in Italy at one point, and you talk about the rain goes on Rolf's painting and smudges the colours and things.
It's the best mistake he could make.
There's a track on there called An Architect's Dream, and in that there's a line where you say it was the best mistake he could have made. I mean, is that a kind of key phrase that, like, even though you've got this precise way and these sounds in your head, that sometimes it's what you might call the mistakes or the accidents that are kind of the really special moments, aren't they?
The flick of a wrist. Yeah, well, I think in a lot of creative process, that's the best thing that can happen to you, is to make a mistake. And it's something that you would never have consciously thought of. It just happens, and then it gives you somewhere to go off to that is far more interesting than something you would have thought of.
There's a lot of kind of folk instruments pop up. There's a lot of technology and your kind of fairlights and things like that, right at the forefront of technology. But you seem to think you want to humanise it with some kind of texture of folk instruments that you've used on different records.
I really like the combination of technology and acoustic, and I think it's very interesting to combine the two.
Yeah.
So you get a kind of, I don't know, just an interesting textural thing that comes with using very warm acoustic sounding instruments with very cold electronic sounding.
Yeah.
Curving and sweeping, rising and reaching, I could feel what he was feeling. Watching the
So here's some aerial theories, right, of mine. Okay, a mother and son relationship. There's a lot of water images in what you do. Ariel is the Little Mermaid. There's one. Sylvia Plath wrote a collection of poems called Ariel, very intense love poems.
Did she?
Yeah. There's Shakespearean spirit in The Tempest, Ariel, Spirit of the Air, summoning up the tempest.
always the same.
There's also Ariel washing powder for the washing machine we were talking about before.
Product placement.